You're listening to a Brain Stew Fresh Fright review.
What's up, creeps? Welcome to another brand new epic film, guys. Fresh Fright review. I'm Justin.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm BluBrry.
And on this episode, we're talking about a sequel to 2021's The Black Phone from Blumhouse. We're talking about Black Phone 2. I find it interesting that there's no "the" in front of the title. It's just Black Phone 2. We had an opportunity to see that early, courtesy of Universal and Blumhouse this week. And it comes out this week in theaters. So if you're a fan of the original, hope you enjoy this episode, and maybe it'll convince you to go see it, or maybe it will not. But to jump right in here, I'll start with you, Jeremy, because you had already mentioned this to me post-screening last night. Did you have at all any anticipation leading up to the release of Black Phone 2 for this movie?
No, I mean, the first Black Phone movie, I remember, obviously we went to the critic screening of it, and, we both, we walked away from it feeling like, okay, like that was pretty solid. Like it wasn't something, I think we treasured it.
Yeah, we did.
Because it was solid, but it wasn't a movie that was so mind-blowing to me that I was like, holy shit, like I love this. Like the way that Weapons made me feel and the way that Bring Her Back made me feel. Like the first Black Phone movie I felt was very serviceable and very predictable at times too, but enjoyable nonetheless. So when they announced a second one, I'm like, well, of course, that's what Blumhouse does. If they have a movie that's successful, they greenlight a sequel. So this, being made and Ethan Hawke coming back and all the characters from the first film coming back, it didn't really rile up any excitement out of me. I was just like, yeah, of course this is going to happen. But, like most horror movies that come out, we're going to watch it no matter what. So I had very little excitement or anticipation for this movie, like whatsoever. It was not on any of my most anticipated lists. It just was something that I was like, yeah, I'm gonna watch it when it comes out. And so that was kind of my how I felt about it before seeing it.
Right. And BluBrry, I know you and I had talked about the original film, because the original film is based on a Joe Hill short story. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And any anticipation from you on this one?
I knew it was coming. I was pretty warm on the first one. I loved that it's really the first one was that nice 70s period piece.
Yeah.
Like I think we all were pretty warm on that one. And I loved Ethan Hawke. I think that he's getting his horror chops in now. Like we talked about it last night. Like what other horror movie, I don't know if you call this a franchise just yet, but other horror movies are having like Oscar-nominated Oscar winners played the villains. Like it's great for him, and I think that he's made that transition to menacing villain very well, almost a little too well. But for this one, I know initially they all came out and they said, okay, Black Phone 2 is going to come out and it's going to be a prequel story. And much like how I feel about what they do sometimes to like Halloween, I don't know that I need that much of a backstory about the grabber. I think that it's going to take away from the mystique of him. I think it's going to, you worry that it's going to be a little too supernatural. And then when I saw the first trailer, I was like, okay, well, it looks like they're just going to rip off Nightmare on Elm Street, which you guys know doesn't really do anything for me. But I like the mask. I like the grabber. I like that they kept the original actors from the first movie, which was only a couple years ago. So going into this, I guess you could say I was, kind of middle road for it. And then I don't know if you want me to get into like initial thoughts yet.
No, not yet. Well,
so yeah, going into it was pretty, I could take it or leave it,
Sure.
So what about you, Justin? What was your thoughts on it?
I mean, initially, obviously, like you said, Jeremy,
initial thoughts.
Well, we knew this was coming. The first one had a budget of only like $20 million, and it made like 160 or something. So it was like we knew it was going to be coming down the pipe eventually. And I liked things about the first one. Like what both of you said, I thought Ethan Hawke was brilliant in the film. I thought he was menacing. And I loved that it captured, like, I'm super into like the urban legends of, like, all the child abductions from the 1970s, because back then you didn't have DNA, you didn't have the type of investigations that happen now where you can catch someone really quickly. I mean, kids would get pulled into vans by guys with balloons, and that legit fucking happened, and the kid was never seen again. And that's really intriguing to me, those kinds of cases. So I liked that it tapped into that. And I loved the mask and all that. It was super cool. And to Brady's point, the reason why I was super excited about the potential for this sequel is that it did look like kind of like a more not fantastical, but a little more heightened,
Supernatural.
Nightmare on Elm Street homage, if you will. So that got me really pumped. And of course, when I saw the fucking trailer and it totally ripped off curtains with him ice skating with, with an axe in his hand or whatever, I was like, okay, I'm totally in for this. And, I try to give everything an open mind. So, I mean, right off the bat, I might as well just jump right in and say that, our initial thoughts here, I mean, for me at least, I thought this was absolutely better than the original. Definitely better on almost 100%. Every single front. And to be fair to the original, they're kind of different movies, right? Like that movie, I felt like was a little bit more of like a thriller than straight horror. I mean, it was very scary. It had great tension, but it definitely was a thriller in the sense like you wanted that character to get out of that basement, and it had some psychologically complex moments with the characters. His sister's got this psychic ability and it comes, down through her family, through her mom and all that stuff. But this one, I just loved the fucking setting at this old Christian camp. I loved that it took place in the winter time. It was freezing. It was cold. It filled you with this sense of dread throughout the whole movie. It's definitely not a body count movie. And I'll say this right off the bat. Most of our listeners know this. This is going to be full spoilers. So if you don't want to have this shit spoiled for you, go see the movie first. But it's not traditional in the sense of like a Nightmare on Elm Street homage where like you're going to see 100 people get picked off. It's definitely not that. But great time at the movies. I think it was the perfect way to usher in October for a new horror movie. What about you, Jeremy?
Well, first, before I jump into that, you mentioning all the child abductions from the 70s and 80s, like, dude, spot on with that. Like, I remember being a little kid and there was some girl that had gone missing and it was like a whole thing. And I remember like my parents really drilling into my head, like, people take kids, like people will kidnap kids and then you'll never see them again. So I remember like you saying that like triggered like an actual fear of mine when I was a child of like, yo, somebody might try to grab me, which actually it actually almost happened when I was a kid. It's a long story, but me and a next door neighbor walked through the woods and there was this it was a moose lodge and there was a gated in playground that was like, off to the left of the property. And there was a dude that showed up at the Moose Lodge and he parked and he started walking towards us. And very long story is he jumped over the fence where we were playing. And then we jumped over the fence and started running. And this was an adult man. And we were probably 9.
Oh, damn.
And he chased us through the woods trying to grab us. And we just were too fast for him. And then my dad was a cop at the time. And my parents had always told me, like, you're not allowed to go over there. But I went anyways. So I was too afraid to tell my parents, like, hey, a guy tried to get me. And I didn't even tell them until years later. So, like, you mentioning that, I was like, oh, that was like a real fear in the 80s and 90s is like someone can just fucking
Absolutely
snatch you and grab you. But, dude, this movie, again, going into it with like no anticipation or excitement, blew my friggin' socks off, man. Like, Ethan Hawke was a powerhouse. All the performances in this movie were unbelievable. The setting was perfect. It was isolated. It was claustrophobic. Those characters were very much stuck. The grabber was very scary in the first film, right? Like, especially when he was sitting in the chair in the kitchen in that first film, like really, really threatening and menacing. I feel like that was intensified in the sequel, and now he's not just a dude that's abducting kids, like, he's a malevolent spirit entity that is still trying to take kids and fucking kill kids even in the afterlife, and it literally, like, I from beginning until end, there's literally nothing that I would change. I could have used some more kills in this movie, but
Yeah.
I don't think that was necessarily what they were going for, right?
Right.
Like, this movie was scary. The grabber was scary. The surroundings was eerie. It literally checked all of the boxes for me to where, like, I wanted to look over at Brady, like, midway through the movie and go, "Man, if they stick the landing, like, I'm going to love this movie." So the whole time I'm like, "Don't mess it up. Don't mess it up."
Mhm.
And let me
Yeah.
tell you what, I loved it. Loved this movie. I'll just go ahead and tell you guys right now, it's my number 3 for the year so far.
Damn, holy
Mm.
shit. That's a huge, I mean, wow. Crazy. Not
Mm.
surprised, but be ready.
Yeah, I mean, kind of lock and step with you guys, but I think sequels, especially nowadays, get this stigma of, bigger budget. They're going to mess some things up. It's unnecessary. Like, if you look at it on paper, Black Phone, based on a short story, does not necessarily need a sequel, right? Or prequel version of a sequel, because, this is kind of both parts, prequel and sequel. You're getting backstory of the grabber that doesn't necessarily take away, but actually is one of those rare occurrences where it adds to the story in really good ways. I think the setting is phenomenal. Like, we talked about it last night, but you just don't really get good horror movies these days that are set in winter snow, like, and that's a pretty terrifying environment, like getting snowed in. Like, here in Virginia we don't get a ton of blizzards, right? But like, thinking of like The Shining, right? When they're stuck at the Overlook Hotel because they're fucking snowed in and nobody can get up to them. It's the same thing here. They're in Colorado. And then, Jeremy, you hit it on the nail on the head with it, and Justin too, that they're two separate movies. So the first one is definitely more psychological thriller with horror aspects. Ethan Hawke's The Grabber is sinister. He's a presence, but more of a physical presence. And then, did you see what I did there with the sinister reference? And then, and then in this one, he like makes that transition to full throttle evil. Like, that's what he is. He's a presence, but not just in the physical sense, but in the overwhelming, omnipresent sense, where
Right.
he is this thing that instead of grabbing you, he's drawing you into his web. And even though he doesn't have a ton of dialogue, that's what makes it more impactful. Like, the lines that he has are incredible, and his delivery is spot on. I love it's Madeline McGraw, right? That's who
That's right.
plays
Yep.
Quinn.
Yep.
I loved her. I think we all loved her in the first one, and she's even more incredible in this one. Like, with other people playing her, I think that some of it could have fallen flat, but she's so emotive with her physical acting, like the shaking, the voice quivering, the raw, raspy screaming, like all of that seems so visceral and real. And then with Mason Thames as Finn again, he's this older, brooding version of the kid who's dealing with that PTSD and trauma of being kidnapped, but still trying to be macho and also having to deal with, like, fucking killing a person. I loved it all.
Beating the shit out of bullies in school.
Oh my God, yeah.
The movie opens and he's like beating the fucking shit out of this new kid who just like said like, "Oh, so you're the guy that killed, a murderer? You don't look
Right.
so tough to me." And literally the movie opens with him. And I was surprised at that. You don't usually see bullying. I wouldn't say that it was that they were trying to promote it in any sense, but like just showing what he's going through in terms of trying to keep that fear, which fear is a very strong theme in this movie for obvious reasons, but he's trying to keep that fear, a bubble around him for people to fear him. Like he said, the harder you beat them, the more they'll be scared of you, kind of
Yeah, I also love how that kid is like wearing a fucking like ascot and like a cardigan. Like, he was really, really being a threat.
Dude, in this small ass town, where the fuck did he come from? Beverly Hills? Come on.
But remember the movie too, like the first one, like we all talked about how it was kind of like there were some scenes with the dad beating the kids.
That's true.
Like, oh.
That's true. Yeah.
And they still address that in this one.
They
where,
do.
Like, the relationship with the dad
thankfully.
is very strained, and you could tell he's trying to make changes. It's been 3 years, I think they say, and he hasn't drank.
He hasn't been.
But they still make the comments being like, "What are you gonna do? Beat me?" And he's like, "All right."
Well, there's a funny
when he when he longingly watched the Bush beer commercial.
Dude, that's what I was
on
gonna say.
Oh,
That
yeah.
commercial pops up and he literally just stares at the TV, then he looks away. I was like, oh my god. I felt it too. I'm like, man, I'm gonna leave this theater right now and find a fucking beer to drink.
I was sitting there like,
because I'm
wet
sitting
my
there with my
whistle right now.
Miller Light shirt on and shit. But
Dude, the dialogue when the grabber finally has that, because they build this tension between Finn and the grabber. There's this like back and forth, and when they finally come face to face, the dialogue that the grabber says to Finn, quote me on this, is iconic.
oh, for sure.
Absolutely iconic. People are going to be quoting this for a bajillion years. Like people that collect autographs, they're going to want this quote. But the grabber explains that he's been in hell, and he explains the difference of like what you think hell is like versus what it really is. And he said that hell to him is freezing, freezing cold. He's freezing, and he he says the dialogue that when you're in hell, you don't remember the good things from your life, only the bad things, the sin. And he looks at Finn and he goes, and my sin is endless.
Yeah.
Like, dude, so terrifying.
I dare say some pretty poetic writing. I mean, it's the same writers, Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill wrote the first one, and they came back and they wrote this one too. So it follows lock and step with that
Nailed it.
really creative writing, but which definitely harkens back to 80s horror and 80s cinema in general. And that's one of my favorite things about this movie. And the first one did it too, but this just, you guys know I'm a stickler for this. I complain about it all the time. So many movies try to capture the 80s and they fail miserably. The new Prom Queen movie that came out earlier this year, shit show. Didn't know what they were doing. So many movies. This movie captured the early 1980s with perfection. Like the setting, the school, the wardrobe, everything about the dialogue, the way the kids talked, the lingo, some of the slang, like every single bit of it, the hairstyles. I was like, man, they really know what they're doing here with this. So I was completely satisfied with all of that. And I do think
score too, man.
Oh, the score. I had to mention Atticus Derrickson because he's kind of like an up and comer. He's only known for, I think, VHS 85, Wanted Man from 2024, and this. And I thought he did a brilliant job. I was looking last night on the way home, Jeremy, in the car. I was like, man, is that score already on Apple Music? It wasn't yet because I cannot wait to jam that. Like super synth heavy.
Same.
But not generic like a lot of the stuff you hear today. Just really captured that menacing, dread-induced vibe all the way throughout the movie.
Did anybody else catch that Miguel Mora, who is playing Ernesto, actually played Robin in the original one too? So he's playing his brother in this one.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember when they announced that he was coming back and he was playing his younger brother, which honestly, like he's a brilliant actor because both performances are so different that there will be people that don't realize that he's the same actor from the first film. That's how good this kid is. I want to call out Demian Bachir, who plays Mando, as a standout. Like, I think that a lot of times when you're dealing with specifically horror sequels, you get characters introduced that are kind of cardboard or throwaway, that they're just there to service the story and move the story along, to where his character was not one-dimensional. I mean, like, his character had a lot of depth and layers and, like, torment from his past, wanting to find the bodies of the missing kids, which we find out later on is pivotal to stopping the grabber, because it would take his power away. Those boys' bodies, being missing still is giving the grabber power, and they realize they're like, we have to find these missing kids, their corpses, to stop the grabber. But his performance was fantastic. He was also in he played a priest in The Nun that came out a few years ago, and he's just a really, really solid actor. And seeing this performance instantly made me a fan, and I can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he was great. I thought all around, I mean, obviously for me, the standout is Madeline McGraw as Gwen. I think the character itself, I love that it kind of takes the spotlight a little more than Finn, which he's great in this movie. He's great in the first one, but I like that it takes her as like the main character to the forefront. It really does harken back to A Nightmare on Elm Street. And, you know, the movie opens and that connection she has, because we already know that she's got these like psychic abilities that have been passed down from her mom. And she starts having these visions of these mutilated children and she can't shake it. And the phone keeps ringing, and that's been a continuous thing for both of them. And I love that they're drawn to this camp that has been closed for ever since these kids have been murdered. And the mythology just is completely expanded from the first movie. They just build on top of what they had as a basis. And that's what draws them to go be camp counselors there at this old spooky ass, you know, Christian camp. And there's nothing spookier than a Christian kids camp. Seriously.
No, there's really not. But also it's the one where their mom used to work at.
Where their mom used to work at. Yes. And then they realize this deep connection, which, spoiler alert, this is where the grabber, they call them Wild Bill, used to work. And that's where he started off, like being the grabber in a sense with these children, that he was gaining his aura, if you will, from killing these children there. And their mom went there as a counselor. And then we find out some more information that, you know, they've been believing for their whole lives that their mom committed suicide. I mean, their dad was a drunk because of it. He thought it was his fault. And then we come to find out, be ready, the truth is
that the grabber grabbed her and killed her because she had a dream that. So, you know, some backstory is that she went to the camp and was there when Bill was there. And same with Mando. They were all there at the same time. They were all there,
yeah.
So then when the grabber is showing, you know, the truth, he's like, I'm going to show you the truth before I have to do what I have to do to you. He shows how their mom had a dream that she found out that the grabber that Bill was the grabber and had taken that first kid. And she went to the house and sees a kid in the basement. But when she goes back to her car, he comes around and grabs her, which was honestly a terrifying scene. Like, you know what's going to happen, but you didn't know from where it was going to come from.
The way it was shot, holy shit. It was like some truly terrifying shit, like nightmare fuel.
Yeah. And I think what's really, one thing that I really loved about it too is how they make the distinction, even though it's a little spoon-fed, but to show you when you're in the dream world and when you're not. And I think
that has to be discussed, yeah.
For this movie, it really worked.
I liked it.
I love that it's kind of that like that grain from like Sinister, where it's on an old film.
Well, they put on a fake ass fucking
but it still looked good
film filter.
And I liked it.
I didn't hate that. I thought it was a cool way to showcase that you're in a dream. I think we talked about it post screening last night. A lot of younger people, when they watch the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, they can't tell when it's a dream sequence sometimes or when it's reality, and that's confusing to them, which I kind of like that you don't really know. It makes it scary. But in this movie, as soon as they're in a dream, that grain filter is like poured all over the entire presentation of the movie. So I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a little overdone, but I understood the purpose behind it.
You know what what's really funny is the character Maeve Beatty, who plays Barbara. Every time a character in the movie calls her Barb, she corrects them. It's Barbara. On the IMDb, she's credited as Barb, which I think is fucking funny, dude.
That's hilarious.
I loved those scenes between her and Quinn where it's like, you know, she's like calling her like a sanctimonious twat.
Dude, that was such a great line.
Because that was what was so great about her in the first one, is she's this like 9-year-old who's just like fucking mouthing off and like saying the most crass things, and you're like, whoa, and they don't let that up. And I love that even when Finn's like, fuck, and she's like, what is it with this family? Like they're cussing nonstop.
And I usually give movies today a lot of shit for like overindulging in foul language, because it's gotten to the point where some movies, it's just so over the top and annoying and it just gets to me. But here it really worked. And back to what I said earlier, where it felt genuine to the period, like they talked how a kid would have talked in the early 80s. So I didn't mind it as much.
Yeah, I think I sorry, go ahead, Jer.
No, I was gonna say the characters of Ken and Barb. I looked at you at one point, Brady, and said, "Oh, they're gonna be in on it." So where I thought the story was gonna go is that these two Christian characters at the Christian camp. I thought it was gonna be revealed that they knew about the grabber and that they helped him cover it up. I was for sure. I was like, oh, that's like gonna
Mhm.
be a story narrative that we go down, and surprisingly, it wasn't. Which, you
I
know,
think it works for the
the
better. Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
And I do like too that the whole thing is that you're like Justin said, the premise of the movie is they have to find where these kids' bodies are to prevent the grabber from having his power. And so they end up finding them under the frozen lake because they're like, well, this wasn't found before because the lake's always been frozen. And they're like, oh well, Bill was an excellent skater, he had all the tools for it. So I think those scenes that you're getting, especially like on the ice, that just adds another level of terror because even when the grabber in the dream world makes Mando fall through the ice, like that's terrifying. That's the thing that you were always told as a kid, right? Like, don't walk on the frozen lake because you're going to fall through and not be able to get
Honestly,
out and
dude,
die.
the whole time when they were on that frozen lake, I was on pins and needles. I was like, "You're gonna drive that?" I know you can do it. Obviously, it's done every day in locations that have thick ice over lakes and ponds and stuff. But they're putting that huge machinery on there and they're drilling on it. And I was like, man, someone's gonna fall into that because me going all the way back to watching It's a Wonderful Life when I was a kid. As soon as the little kid goes into the water and almost dies, I was like, man, like that's always been like something that freaked me out.
We had a lake near our house growing up, and it's Virginia weather, so it never gets that cold.
Right? Yeah.
But as kids, we would like not the full length of the lake, but over close to the shallow parts, we would run down the woods and then just like slide across it. Well, it worked for my friends who were like, super skinny and had leaned out, but not all Gus, not me. When I would run down there, I would put, my husky jeans, all the weight that I was carrying in them just on that ice, and you could hear it groan under me. Like, oh,
Be ready with PHAT.
I was wearing Fat Farm, and it was just my normal clothes.
Fubu.
Yeah.
I did have a Fubu hat. Don't shun me.
And
Love that.
as much as I really enjoy the character of Finn, I am glad that we focus on Quinn in this one, and she gets her hero arc. And we talked about it last night too, but even there are some times where I was very worried that the dream sequences were going to get way over the top, supernatural.
Right.
Like when she starts finding out that she can have power over her dreams to fight the grabber, I was like, oh great, now we're going to have some fucking dream warrior shit where it's like fire coming out and all of a sudden he's a wizard. And but no, it was still, as funny as it sounds, it was grounded enough in its supernatural aspects that it felt somewhat believable. It didn't take you out of the moment.
No, it definitely felt grounded. I appreciated that. It felt more in line with like the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie where it's practical locations. They're not going over the top with anything. And I did want to bring up, the movie is absolutely a slow burn for a while. They build and build and build to that really first huge confrontation between the grabber and Gwen. And it's while she's in this kitchen with these ovens on and shit, and she's like flipping all around and doing all this amazing. There's a lot of practical wire work in there that you can see while he's attacking her, and amazing moment. I thought it was probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Terrifying shit, amazing, horrific imagery. And after he lets her go, that shot, Jeremy, I looked over at you. There's like an audible gasp in the audience when the grabber just slowly like drifts back into the shadows. Legit, like that's just like Michael Myers from the original Halloween when he comes out of the shadows towards Laurie Strode. This to me is like a modern equivalent of that. It just felt like that aura was intense. It was amazing. And just props. I don't know who designed the mask. I should try to look that up. I should have been better about this, but that mask,
wasn't it Savini?
Is it Savini?
Savini. I think he co-created it with another dude.
Okay, I'll have to look that up as we're talking, but I really thought that like that they nailed it home even harder. Yeah, Tom Savini did have something to do with it. That's correct. Yep, That's right. Tom Savini and Jason Baker.
Yeah,
there we go. I thought it was two
props,
of them.
Man. Savini's still crushing it out there.
Was the masks like drilled and screwed into his head in this one? Because I couldn't see the strap, and from the angles that I saw, it looked like it was almost like the screw going into his head.
It did. Yeah, he was all bloody and stuff.
Yeah.
Because in the first one, he could remove the mouth depending on what he wanted the face to show,
the mood to be.
Yeah,
which is so cool.
And then what I loved so much, I know I'm jumping forward, but at the end of the movie, they rip the bottom part of the mask off, and it's just like rotted zombie, like dead.
Mhm.
Freddy Krueger,
Yeah,
dude.
Freddy Krueger, basic. It looked amazing when he was talking. It just looked
Yes.
really badass, dude. I really appreciated that a lot.
And usually when you get an actor of like Ethan Hawke's stature, you would think that they would be like, nah, like you got to have my face in it. You know what I mean?
Dude,
like,
he didn't give a fuck,
and,
man. He just went full
dude,
force
he
on
was
this.
in.
Yeah.
He was in, bro, and he was terrifying. That's what I love about this the most, man, is that like this to me, like Conjuring 2, I think is like one of the strongest and scariest sequels ever that to me, I'm like, this outdid the original. And that's exactly how I feel about the Black Phone 2 is it was scarier and darker than its original, and it just blew me the fuck away. His performance blew me away, dude.
Yeah. I also think, on top of performances, we can't not talk about Scott Derrickson as the writer and director, or co-writer and director.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I think in lesser hands or somebody less experienced or less equipped for this, it would not have been as impactful as a sequel as this one was. But he is in clear control and command of what he is doing in this movie at every moment. Sure, there's a lot of green screen used, but it's a Blumhouse production, so we can't get away from that.
I need to mention while you're on that subject. I mean, most of the stuff on the water in the mountains is all green screen, but I have to give them props. Most of their budget probably went to the CG for that stuff, and I thought it was extremely well done for the budget. It never pulled me out of it 1 second.
Oh, for sure.
I didn't even notice the green screen. I guess that's how into the movie
Jeremy
I was.
mesmerized.
Yeah, after the movie, I was like, yeah,
dude.
the only thing that I could really complain about right now is that maybe just the CGI didn't look that great. And Jeremy was like, CGI? It's like, oh,
I mean,
you
like,
thought we were in Denver.
some of the some of the CGI as far as like a face getting slashed in half and a couple other things like that CGI was noticeable, but as far as green screens for the surroundings and the set, dude, I guess I was into it that I didn't even notice it.
It helps
Jeremy
that
never actually seen a tree in his life.
it helps that like they showed they had actual footage of snowy mountains, and they had actual at the camp. The camp was a practical, like all the sets inside were practical, well-made sets. I have to look it up. I tried to find more information on like shooting locations and stuff.
It was Ontario, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But, I just looked it up before the show. So,
Okay, I could not find it, so
I
props
literally
on you.
just looked it up, so I was like, oh, cool, I know
Well,
that
because
one.
I'm saying that camp, it legit, like it was a practical location as far as I could tell. Like all the cabins and stuff looked, weathered and old and had almost like that Friday the 13th-esque vibe to them.
Yeah, it says filming was in Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Okay. Well.
Which makes sense. But yeah, I also, my immediate reaction to Jeremy after the movie was that was the best parts for me of Nightmare and Friday the 13th all into one cohesive movie. And I think Scott Derrickson just, I don't know that he has ever fully let me down with the movie. I love Sinister up until the final act.
Have you ever watched the remake of The Day of the Earth Stood Still?
Yeah, I try not to think. Okay, well then there we go. He has let me down. I forgot he did that one. But Out of the Furnace was really good.
Absolutely, yeah.
I really like Black Phone. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he continues to do. But I'm really glad that he stuck with this one to get the sequel and do that. And I mean, it's gonna make fucking great money at the box office.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and it's also props to Joe Hill. Again, they were weary. He was weary about them doing a sequel to it. I think they didn't really necessarily want to. And he's the one that pitched them like the idea for the sequel. And when they came together and worked out the script and story, that's what really solidified this thing as being something worthwhile to make. And I think they made the right choice. The ending itself, really exciting. I don't want to spoil all of it, but I mean, it all takes place on that location we mentioned earlier, like, green screened, but on the ice. And I thought it was an amazing finale. And once again, I can't keep, saying this, but I'm going to, but it definitely brought me back to like those Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but colder, a little bit meaner, and that's the one thing about the Grabbers. He's not funny, man. He's not cracking jokes. This dude is scary. And also one of my favorite moments in the movie is when he's like in the back of a van and he's talking to Gwen and they have a conversation and he's just nonchalant, like, and there's almost a moment of ease when once again he's drawing her in, like thinking that there's a moment of safety, and then instantly he starts stalking her and chasing her, and it's scary shit that he's chasing after her with an axe. It just amazing horror imagery in this thing. I really can't say enough. The movie is just a blast to watch. And what you said perfectly earlier on, Brady, we don't have enough horror movies that take place in the winter. There's Curtains, which this references Curtains. Obviously, The Shining. There's a handful of others, but usually they don't do them because it's more difficult to shoot in the snow, like in cold weather. Mm-hmm. It's a pain. It's, obviously actors don't want to be out there in freezing cold. I mean, 30 Days of Night is one of my favorite horror movies ever, and that took place, in Alaska in the cold. There's just something about the blue-white color scheme of you're in the mountains, everything's covered in snow, that really just brings a chill down your spine, and it adds to the dread and the atmosphere so much, and it did such a great job here.
And it's just desolate. The landscape is barren and just covered. I mean, even those scenes of where you find out it's the grabber chasing those three boys, back in the 50s, like those are terrifying. Like the slow motion kid looking back, the flashlight going,
terrifying.
And there's snow everywhere. Like that immediately reminded me of those like fucking films in Sinister where he's watching. So I think the only other really good snow horror movie we've gotten is the Mean One, right, guys?
Oh my god, you're instantly demoted,
dude. That's a movie that it's like I can't believe I not only watched it, but I watched the entire movie for the Mean One.
Yeah,
how the fuck?
Well, sometimes we take one for the team, my friends. Sometimes we do.
No joke.
I'm pretty sure we're there, guys. I think it's time for Trash It or Treasure It and final thoughts. So, J-Dog, what do you got?
Man, I loved this movie. Again, harping back to what I said in the beginning, first film, serviceable, enjoyable. This one was a home run for me and instantly solidified the fact that I'm like, oh shit, like I'm now a fan of this. It went from like being something that I'm like, yeah, it was fine, whatever, I'll probably never watch it again, to watching the second one and going, holy shit, I love the grabber. I'm in. I'm a Black Phone fan now, which is wild to me because I wasn't expecting that. So let me get that third entry, man, and I'm trying to see how even more terrifying they can make the grabber in the next one. So I'm all the way in on this. The film was amazing. I'm screaming from the rooftop for everyone to go see this in the theater. That is the optimal way to see this movie. I love it. Treasure it.
And next thing you know, Jeremy is going to be texting me next week being like, dude, I know where Ethan Hawke's going to be. I got a Black Phone 2 poster. I'm going to go try to...
He's going to be in Denver.
I'm going there to get him to sign the poster.
Taking a train.
Be ready?
Yeah, I mean, no question. This is a treasure it for me. I remember getting out of the theater last night and on the way home, texting Faye, because she was like, well, how is it? Because we were both about in the same boat where it's like this looks like we could, not have to rush to see it if, we weren't recording it. And I was like, dude, it blew me away. Like, I honestly loved it. And she was like, you're lying. And I was like, no, like it is. I'm up there with Jeremy. Like, it's definitely in my top 5, maybe even top 3 of the year at this point.
Wow.
And that's saying a lot because I feel like this year we've actually had some some decent horror movies come out.
Absolutely.
So I think there's not much else that I can say that I haven't already said, but I just am very pleasantly surprised and excited that we got a sequel that blew the first one out of the water for me. And even though they're 2 different types of movies, I think that's what makes it work so well. So yes, same as Jeremy, I'll be up there screaming with him, go see this movie, go support it. I'm a little more cautious about a third one because I really don't know where you would go. But at this point, they surprised me with the sequel. Let's see what they got.
Yeah. They'll probably have a dog piss and then he'll be reborn again and come back up. Just like Freddy. Yeah, I liked it a lot. It's definitely my top 10 of the year as of right now. I'm not sure. We'll have to move things around by the end of the year and see how I feel. But yeah, it's going to be a treasure it for me. One of the things that we didn't mention as much in depth about was the familial aspects and, the bond between Gwen and Finn and obviously their deceased mother and that emotionality at the end of the movie where after they kind of have this closure on their mom, like I said, the dad was an alcoholic for years. He beat the kids because of this. He thought it was his fault. And then by the end of the movie, there's that really emotional moment where that empty dead phone booth rings, at the camp, and she answers it, and it's her mom, and Gwen's just crying, and it's a super emotional moment. I just thought when they walk away, their dad's like, "Come on, guys, time to get moving." I just thought to myself, man, they're just going to go home a family and be home together and have that closure, and it's going to be an amazing moment. And there's nothing better than that. I mean, the movie ends with a bang. It's scary, it's exciting, but it also ends with like kind of like a tiny little warm fuzzy feeling inside. So for me, at least, I'm definitely going to watch this maybe even every winter. It just has those strong winter vibes. So when I'm snowed in with a cup of hot cocoa with a little bit of fucking Tito's in it, I'll throw this shit in and give it a watch again, and definitely highly recommend it. So ladies and gentlemen, that is it for our Fresh Fright review of Black Phone 2. When you get a chance to check it out and watch it, let us know in the comment section wherever you see this episode posted what you think of the movie. If it's your first time listening to Epic Film Guys, thanks for checking us out. And if you're a long-time listener, we fucking love you. It's our favorite month of the whole year. Spooky season is here, so stick with us. We got plenty more coming down with episodes. And of course, we're available on every podcatcher known to man and all over social media at Epic Film Guys. So until next time, I'm Justin.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm BluBrry.
And as always, we like to ask you to keep that shit creepy. Keep it creepy, bitch.